What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Monday, 2 weeks until Media Day is underway. Eric, we only have 14 days left to see a Damian Lillard trade happen until he supposedly returns to Portland Trail Blazers training camp, and talks are heating up, rumors are heating up, and now apparently there is maybe another team interested in one Damian Lillard. We're going to discuss that today. We're going to discuss who that team might be, as Eric says he has an inkling as to who it might be. I don't know who Eric's going to say, so I'm as intrigued as you guys might be. And then we'll take a look at a couple trade packages, maybe throw in a couple of teams of my choice into the Fanspo trade machine. We're going to bring that back today. And it's going to be another Damian Lillard-oriented stream. So if you hate Damian Lillard-oriented streams, I'll catch you on Thursday and we'll see if we have something else to talk about. But until training camp is underway, this is what we got, Eric. How's it going?
Pasty Zach wants a Tankathon sim. We
can also do Tankathon sim. But you gotta donate $2 for that, all right? It's September. I don't want to embrace the Tankathon yet, although I guess I'm embracing it already.
I thought you were. Come on.
Yeah. Well, where are we on Tankathon? I'm curious.
I think we're pretty high up there.
We're third.
I did
52% chance at the top four.
I did it once this summer and got the number one pick, and I was like, okay.
Any Tankathon sims before the regular season starts are unofficial. The first post-game, actually the first loss of the season, we will do a Tankathon sim, and that will be official. Assuming that we're in the lottery. Maybe we're just never in the lottery. Maybe we just have such a great season next year.
Mm-hmm.
What am I talking about? Anyway, Eric, have you had a good day?
Yeah, my day was good. How about yours?
It was good. Looking forward to next season. I hit up Krish. We're building out graphics for next year, getting started on that process. Because, I basically woke up today. It's like, holy crap, it's only in 2 weeks. So I gotta get started. So we're building out stuff for next season. Looking forward to the content. Looking forward to some of the stuff we're gonna try.
We need new banners on post channels. I was looking at that today, seeing little Larry Nance Jr. and
yeah, here I am, like new stuff, and we still got Larry Nance Jr. on the banners. Yes, the YouTube banners we've put them off. So we'll update the banners by October 1st is my goal for updating the banners. And then also on October 1st, this channel will be undergoing a little bit of a rebrand. So we got a lot of stuff coming for you guys. That October 1st is a Sunday. I plan on announcing all our content for next season on that Sunday, October 1st. Looking forward to it. Season, of course, starts October 25th. Preseason starts October 10th. We will have post-game shows right here on the second channel for preseason games. Maybe we'll do it on the main channel. I'm not sure, but we will definitely have post-game shows for preseason games. Anyway, chat, let me know what you guys did today. Let me know how your day was. Let me know what you accomplished. Let me know if something went wrong. Maybe we can give you some life advice on it later. Truly Spencer PDX with the $2 donut says, I got it, chat. Here is the Tankathon fee. Shout out to Spencer for paying the Tankathon fee. I like that, the Tankathon fee. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate your support. And, yeah, man, what are kind of your feelings on this situation? Are they the same as they've been over the past month and a half? Like, are you even more tired of it now? How do you feel about this situation at this point in time? And we can use that to segue into talking about the topic of today's stream, which is the same topic as the past 2.5 months.
For the first time today, I was like, wow, this is actually, I think it's going to be close to happening.
I've had that gut feeling for a while now.
And I haven't had it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole time. It's one of the drawbacks of finding out about a request before, like, if the trade just happened on July 1st and we're sitting here 2.5 months later talking about the team and rebuilding and stuff. I mean, might have been a little bit more boring the last couple months, but like it would have just been all over at once. So we wouldn't have had to like both get that whole experience and then have that experience for when he's actually traded. I can't imagine finally seeing that tweet from Woj or Shams or whoever it ends up being when it finally happens. But I felt like today, just from the little bit I heard, is just like, okay, now they're actually getting down to business. They're actually, trying to be a little more specific on stuff, and it feels like both parties want something to happen before training camp.
Yeah, my gut feeling is that this thing happens before October. It's what I've been saying from just the entire last month and a half. If you guys remember, I had that stream on the last day of July saying it wasn't going to happen in August, and then I had a Twitter prediction of September 16th for this trade. Obviously, that didn't come true, but it just feels like that tweet is coming. Mm-hmm. It feels like something's going to happen in the next 10 to 12 days or so. Yeah. You had Chauncey and Kyle Lowry sitting together at the Colorado game, and then when Chauncey was on camera, he got up and left. Like, somebody obviously said something to him. It was kind of weird because he turned around, looked, and then got up. Maybe it was just somebody he knew, and he was going to say hi. I don't know.
For the record, they showed him before the game up there with him and Kyle Lowry. I'd already seen that before they did that, and he didn't leave that time, so...
If they were trying to avoid Chauncey Billups being seen with Kyle Lowry, they probably would not have sat next to each other if they were trying to avoid that.
And that game was crazy, the amount of hype it got for it being Colorado State versus Colorado. But yeah, The Rock was there, like all these people were there, and everyone was freaking talking about a college football game on a Saturday night. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty cool spectacle. But yeah, there's no way they'd be like sitting together thinking no one would notice if that was the case.
Unless they didn't think they were big enough celebrities to be noticed, considering all the A-list celebrities that were there.
Yeah, but when you're in the press box and stuff, you get noticed like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure they have somebody that like scours the press boxes for people, and also they probably have a sheet of all the celebrities, and I'm sure those two guys were on there. So, yeah, I'm not going to read anything into that. Just as far as the situation goes, gut feeling says it happens soon. I really have no reason for that. It's just when you think about the Blazers in regards to being up against kind of an arbitrary deadline, but a bit of a deadline with training camp, it feels like if you're bringing Dame back to training camp on October 2nd, which is media day, at that point, you're like committed to going into the season with him. Mm-hmm. That is a bit of a fork in the road, in my opinion. Of course, they can still trade him in the middle of training camp, but then that would mean, okay, Dame's not reporting to training camp, and it's just all this news, and it just makes no sense to wait until that point. It makes sense to just, if a deal is going to get done before the season, to make it happen before Portland has to deal with the spectacle of starting a training camp with Damian Lillard still on the roster. Whether that's Damian Lillard not showing up, or Damian Lillard showing up, maybe even doing interviews and being asked all sorts of questions regarding this situation. So that's a big reason why I feel like it's going to happen in the next 10 to 12 days, is simply because I do not think Portland wants to go into training camp and media day with him, and I still don't think that he's going to play another game in a Blazer uniform, at least not this season. So I just think the team wants it to get done. We're going to talk a little bit about what they need to do to make it easier on Miami to get it done, if it's indeed going to be Miami, the team that they trade Dame to. I think at this point Portland's a little bit more motivated to help Miami figure out what Portland wants, and I think that might coincide with some of the talks, some of the whispers. A lot of them don't seem legitimate, but there is a feel
connected.
Yeah, it said that for me too. Successfully connected. Hopefully we're good. All right. I think, are we good? Are we good?
I don't know.
Yeah, guys, it's lagging. It's lagging for sure. Last stream it lagged early, didn't lag for the rest of the stream, so hopefully we're good to go now. The lag issues have been rough lately. I will work on a fix before the season. I need to do that soon. So yeah, the lag has been rough. Might have been a YouTube thing since chat broke too. Yeah, normally we don't get that message, so I don't know what it was. Anyway, at least I finished my point. Eric, follow up with what you were gonna say.
Well, I was just gonna say that, knowing how this has shook out so far, it wouldn't be surprising if that was Cronin's like last little effort to get more value, is to say, okay, we're going into training camp with this, and then trading him a couple days into training camp, hoping that a team, panics or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just best for all teams involved if it just happens sooner rather than later at this point. So, yeah, I think it's that 10 to 12 days you said. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it happens by the end of this week as well. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this whole situation and being able to talk about what actually happens and where we go from here and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and if Dame gets traded, we will have a live stream over on our main channel. It's Blazers Uprise without the live. There's a link in the description box below. Actually, there's not a link in the... Why isn't there a link in the description box below? Let me put a link in the description box below, and I'll also drop a link in chat. I even have it on the overlay, but I don't have it in the description. So we have a main channel. This is our second channel. It's funny because in the past couple of days, there's been a few people that have tried to talk trash to me, saying you only have, 3.5 thousand subscribers, you're nothing. I've had a couple people say that recently. It's like, my guy, it's the second channel. There's a reason why I'm going to rebrand this a little bit. But yeah, we got a main channel. We post videos. We do all our post-game live streams from there, and then we'll be doing additional stuff from there this year. So if you want to subscribe to our main channel, that's where we will go live once a Dame trade breaks, and we'll give our reaction to whatever the hell that package might be, because who knows what it could be. Who knows how bad it could be. Who knows who it could be? I mean, I think it will be Miami, but apparently there's a mystery team. So looking forward to discussing that as well. There's a link in the description now. There is a link in the chat. Yes, Shay the GOAT. We're on the road to 10,000 subs.
Yeah. So if you're taking someone, I can't find it. I was looking for who actually asked the question, but someone asked earlier, Heat or the Field, who are you taking? After all this new news today.
Miami.
Yeah.
I would be surprised. The better question, Eric, is what would you be more surprised by? Dame being in Blazers training camp or Dame being in another training camp that's not Miami's?
I'd be more surprised on Dame being in another training camp that's not Miami's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree too. So, but we'll discuss other possibilities, and we've done this before. We've done this multiple months leading up to the offseason, even looked at teams that would maybe have interest in Damian Lillard. Our post-game live streams are a couple of hours long, and when we tank, I mean, that's all we've had to discuss. So we've kind of been talking about this hypothetical situation for upwards of 5 months now. And let's just jump into things, Eric. So I don't know if you want to start with the reports today, or
yeah,
how you
let's
want to
do
address
it.
This.
Okay. I've seen a lot of comments too about Heat fans in chat, or people who said they watched. So I went on a show the other day. It was 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. They cover Miami sports and stuff like that. I went on the show to break down basically for the last 2 years of what's led to this point from Damian Lillard. So if you found us through that, appreciate you guys tuning in, and thank you to all Blazers Uprise watchers who checked that pod out. I appreciate all of you, and thanks for the nice comments. But yeah, so today Mark Spears, Brian Windhorst, and I think someone else all add some fuel to this whole fire. And I guess we could start with Mark Spears saying that there is a mystery team and that is in on Damian Lillard. And he said something like, I'm not ready to say who that is yet, or something like that. But yeah, so apparently there is a mystery Eastern Conference team that wants to trade for Damian Lillard. Who do you think it is, Tori?
Okay, before I answer that question, let me just say, it is very easy to go out there and say, yeah, there's a mystery team. Not going to say who, but there's a mystery team.
Right.
Like, we could have sat here and made that up instead of we could go like, well, shouldn't get into it, but guys, there's a mystery team, right? And then all of a sudden other people are saying a mystery team. It doesn't confirm anything. We don't know for sure that there's a mystery team, okay? Because it could be, just one of two things. People putting it out for fodder, or, and this I think is more likely, the Blazers front office maybe leaking that to try and gain some leverage on Miami. Because as we've said before, this is kind of a game of leverage, a little bit of a cat and mouse game between Portland and Miami. Negotiations have already been extremely messy. I would not doubt that Portland would put something out like there are other teams interested in Damian Lillard just to try and show Miami that they don't have all the leverage. So maybe then Miami's willing to give up more if they're not giving up their full package. So that is a possibility. I'm not saying that's for sure what's happening because I truly don't know. There could be a mystery team out there. I'm not sure. I don't know. But there is multiple possibilities with a report like this. You always have to consider who's reporting something and why the report might be being put out there. It's not just, oh, somebody says there's a mystery team, that means there's a mystery team. A couple people say they're a mystery team, that means there for sure is a mystery team. It's never that clear-cut and dry with reports on a messy situation like this that has already taken months to play out. So with that being said, if I had to guess a mystery team, I have no idea who Eric's going to say because Eric has an inkling. If there's a mystery team out there, my guess would be Philadelphia is trying to make something happen with James Harden and Tyrese Maxey for Dame. I don't know if and how they could make that work. I think that sort of package would require 4, maybe 5 teams because I don't think Portland should or would have any interest in either of Tyrese Maxey or James Harden. But when you look at the situation Philadelphia's in, the mess that is the James Harden situation, their inability to make a conference finals with Joel Embiid, the fact that Damian Lillard would be the best player, in my opinion, that Embiid's ever played next to. I think he would be a better fit next to Embiid than Jimmy Butler was. I think that pick and roll duo would be the deadliest in the league. Dame is pretty cool with Embiid. Like, I could see Philadelphia being the team out there, the Eastern Conference team that is willing to take a risk on a splash for Damian Lillard. It's just they don't have many picks. They don't have many assets. It'd basically have to be Maxey plus Harden. And I don't even know what else they could add to that. They don't have a bunch of other good young talent either. So I don't know how they can make it work, but that would be my guess.
Yeah, that is the team. It's Philly. There's been teams interested in Dame. Like the Lakers would take Dame. The Clippers would take Dame. Philadelphia this whole time would have traded for Dame. Milwaukee would trade for Dame. That's not the question. The question is, just because there's another team that's interested doesn't mean they have a trade package. And so, like you said, so I went and looked just to make sure they could trade a 2030 first. Okay, Philly, right now. They could trade a 2030 first.
Yeah.
So already they can trade less picks than Miami. And the way their protections are with OKC, only top 6 protected in 2025 on a first they owe them. And then it goes down to top 4 the next 2 years. And then that Brooklyn pick that they owe for the James Harden trade is only top 8 protected in 2027 and 2028, but that's only if the OKC one conveys in 2025. So unlike the Miami pick that they owe OKC, I think they're going to have a lot tougher time changing the parameters of these picks to make them be in the years they need them to be in to open up even a second first round pick, let alone a third first round pick. So right there, just in terms of pick value, they're already behind Miami in their offer, and they have been. This is information that every GM would have known since last trade deadline, and then after the draft, like when all these things become official for the new league year. So there's no extra first there. So the thing becomes, can they get more first with Maxey? Because I do believe Maxey has more trade value than Tyler Hero. Maybe not a ton more, but I think a team would take a chance on him. And his salary is that it's a lot easier to match for a lot of teams that don't have necessarily a big salary to trade out. So could you find a team that could come up with a first for Harden and expiring contracts and maybe 2 firsts for Maxey, and then you get to 4 firsts and expirings? So like, let's just say the Clippers, who apparently called off talks about James Harden, according to reports, if they're willing to give up a 2028 or a 2030 first for James Harden, and they have a bunch of expirings like Marcus Morris and Nicholas Batum and things like that. So if you're doing that, so you're getting 4 firsts. They're just from different teams, Clippers and Philadelphia, and then whatever team you get 2 firsts from Maxey for. I don't know. Does that sound better than the Heat offer if they can get 4 firsts and Jovic and Hawkes or something?
It's about a wash to me.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're going to struggle just to match Miami's package.
Right?
So, Philly could win out if Miami isn't offering the most, or Philly being a player could get Miami to offer the most. And if the offers are equal, would Joe Cronin pick if he didn't have a preference between the offers and it just came down to sending Dame where he wants to go and Dame to a destination that he doesn't want to go as much? Because I'm sure Dame would be fine going to Philly. Then again, the whole James Harden situation with Daryl Morey supposedly lying to James Harden, like, does Dame want to play for another liar? But then again, Pat Riley's one of the shrewdest GMs in the league. I'm sure. I don't know. Like, a lot of GMs will play games with players is kind of what we're discovering, and maybe already knew. But Daryl Morey does seem like he did Harden wrong in that situation. Like, I truly think that he. I don't know. I don't want to go over the Harden situation. We had a whole stream on it, but I do think that Harden was promised certain things that Daryl Morey didn't come through on, including a trade when James Harden opted in this past offseason, as well as a contract extension when he took less money last offseason so they could sign PJ Tucker. That situation is just weird. But I do think Dame would play there and be willing to run it with Joel Embiid, so I'm sure Philly isn't necessarily scared to make that deal happen. It just comes down to what can they get. They'd have to maximize the value of both Tyrese Maxey and James Harden to a third team, in my opinion. And yeah, like, I think out of those 2 guys, you got to get probably 4 firsts in total for both those guys in order to end up with a better package. Because shoot, man, like, Hawkes and Jovic, I've said, are equal to approximately like 2 mediocre to lower first round picks. Plus 4 firsts from Miami if they send Hero to a third team for a first and work around the protections on the OKC pick. That's essentially close to 6 first round picks in terms of value. If Portland is just getting picks back in a deal where they send Dame to Philadelphia, they might have to get back more than 4 firsts in total for Maxey and Harden. Because what else do they really have to trade that's valuable to either Portland or other teams? They don't have a ton. So that's what, as you said, that's what it comes down to. Is it's not just about, oh, teams just need to be interested in Dame. If the Bucks are interested, that's not going to force Miami's hand because the Bucks have nothing to give up. Right? They have Drew Holiday to give up, and he's supposedly going to retire after his contract is done. So if you're Portland and you want to either maximize the return for Miami or get back a better return from another team, whatever mystery team comes into play has to be able to offer a better package than Miami. It's that simple. A lot of teams can't because they've traded assets for stars already and don't have much left. They don't have good young players, or they don't need a point guard, or they're not in win now mode and don't have interest in Dame.
And that's why I think this offer is just because, like, there hasn't even been that many teams there hasn't been a single legit offer other than the Heat trying to engage with Portland. But so I mean, Philadelphia could actually call with an offer, hey, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and a 2030 first, and then what is Cronin going to say? No, you have to do all the legwork. You have to go find third teams for those guys or whatever. Like,
no, I'm sure Cronin would do a lot of the legwork himself because he could say,
Miami.
look, it's not Miami. I got a better package than Miami was offering. It would help his perception with too many people in this fan base, let's be honest. It would help his perception, and it would make him look smart for how he handled this entire situation. It would make him look good if he was able, even if it was the same package Miami was offering Portland, if he took it from Philadelphia, a big portion of this fan base would say, see, he got the better deal.
And he didn't give in to Dame.
He didn't give in to Miami. This is the type of GM we need. Because he did not, look how strong he was. Even if he only gets back 4 firsts and nothing else from Philadelphia, which I think is worse than what he can get from Miami, it wouldn't be painted as a bad thing. So if there is a mystery team like this and there's a lot of legwork to be done, I'm sure Joe Cronin would be a lot more willing to do that legwork himself. But that, and that goes into, I think we should elaborate, since we just discussed it, we should elaborate on how Miami is kind of left guessing in this situation regarding what to get back for Hero and all that. I don't know if you want to expand on that.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Reading chat. You pulled a me.
Yeah.
I feel like we should expand upon Portland not necessarily letting Miami know what they want back from a third team for Tyler Hero.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, if you've been watching the show for months, you'd know that I feel very strongly that a good GM or an experienced GM would have from the beginning said, don't call back unless you, at minimum, get this kind of package together as a starting point for negotiations. But what sounds like has been happening at every turn is the Blazers just tell the Heat to go get more stuff. And they won't tell them what would be acceptable or how much more to get or what kind of more stuff you want. And so, like, the Heat are kind of guessing or having to guess or whatever. But as brought up by the guys on that Miami show I was on, they don't think Miami is the type of team that would shop a guy like Tyler Hero to other teams if it wasn't already certain that that was going to be part of a trade. Like, they're not going to, like, make it known that these guys are available and do that kind of stuff without knowing for sure that Damian is coming if they do it, And that's the problem. They could find a team that is willing to give 2 firsts for Tyler Hero, 2 unprotected firsts, let's just say, and or a young center or someone the Portland Trailblazers you would think need because they have a hole at small forward or center or whatever. But the Blazers won't answer if they do get that, if that will be enough. Like, they just say, like, oh, you just have to give us a better offer. Just keep giving us whatever your best offer is or whatever. And the Heat are like, okay, but we're doing that. We need to know what you want, and we'll go out and try to get it. And it's just been a very confusing process for the Heat, from the Heat's perspective. And I can't really say I blame them for being frustrated, because like, you have to at some point, like, let them know, hey, this is a list of players that we need in this package, or this is how many picks we need in this package in addition to this young player or whatever. So, like, we haven't been able to get him with the assets we have. Like, let's just say, throw out a random name, like Walker Kessler, right?
Yeah.
Let's say the Blazers demanded that the Miami Heat get Walker Kessler because they think he's a good young center to pair with Scoot and whatever, and all that kind of stuff, right? So that at least the Heat would know, like, okay, we have to go get a Walker Kessler type player or Walker Kessler, and then they can call the Jazz and be like, okay, we have a 2028 and a 2030 first and all this stuff, like, but then are the Blazers just trading, like, going to give up all those picks for that player? But, like, so Miami's asking them that, and they're just like, no, just go get as many things as you can and come back to us. But they don't want to, they're not making any of these trades. They're not going to get assets if they're not getting Damian Lillard. So they're stuck in this situation where they can't negotiate a trade that they don't know what's coming in the end. It's just really, really confusing.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically just spiteful. If you're Portland, what does it hurt to figure out what, in your mind, is the best deal that Miami can get back? Because there's 28 other teams, all with all sorts of different types of assets. Now, not all of them are going to be interested in Tyler Hero, but there's a lot of them that would maybe be willing to trade for him. So,
or Caleb Martin or Hawkes or something, like, if you don't want Hawkes, you know?
If you're Portland, how does knowing what the best return for Dame from Miami could be, how does that hurt you? Because you still don't necessarily have to take it, but if you let Miami know what you want, and then they go out there and say, you can get this type of player, or you can get the 2 first-round picks you want, how does that not help Portland optimize the return for Damian Lillard? The only reason why Portland would not be willing to tell Miami what it wants is out of spite. It's out of spite. And I'm sure a lot of Blazer fans are out there like, hell yeah, don't tell them, screw Miami, screw Dame, screw Miami. Like, there are Blazer fans that want Joe Cronin to act out of spite. And if you're pissed off about Dame and the situation, I guess I understand, like, okay, screw it, screw them. Like, that whole mindset, I don't share it one bit, but I understand why somebody might come to the conclusion where they have that sort of mindset, whatever. Mm-hmm. That's the only reason, though, is out of spite, because it doesn't hurt Portland to figure out what they can get back. And it's funny because as you were making that point, I was reading chat, and Taylor Packer says, more picks and young guys, what else would we want? And then there's another comment that says, the Blazers want players with some talent. That is what Cronin wants. How is that hard to figure out, LOL? I mean, you can sit here and say young players, but what? Like, would they rather have a young center or a young small forward or a young power forward? What guys do they want? Like, they probably should prioritize defense. So in terms of young players, what skills should they have? Does Portland want guys with how many years of team control, right? Do they want guys, they probably do, with more than 1 year left on their contract until they hit free agency, whether it's unrestricted free agency or restricted free agency, because Portland has, prioritized guys on certain contract lengths before with this ownership group, right? And that's just regarding young players. But there's also a report early in this situation that Joe Cronin supposedly wanted an all-star caliber player back for Damian Lillard. So which one is it? But we just assume Miami should just know exactly what Portland wants, and therefore it's okay that Portland doesn't just articulate to them what they want when there's nothing to lose on Portland's end by doing so. That's the whole part of this that I just don't understand from Portland's end. They should just tell him, and it's not coming from a standpoint of like, you know, people try to make my opinions out to be against Joe Cronin and critical of Joe Cronin. Like, this isn't coming from any sort of bias against Joe Cronin. I would say this regardless of who the GM is. There's just no logical conclusion to say that Portland shouldn't tell Miami what types of assets they'd be looking for from a third team in a Damian Lillard trade.
Yep. And what was the other report? Oh, it was the Windhorse thing. So this ties in with what Blazer fan is asking in chat. Why did the KD trade go to the deadline? It seems ridiculous to complain about the trade dragging out. Okay, I mean, are we forgetting that Kevin Durant, first of all, rescinded his trade request and ended up playing?
Yeah.
Kyrie ends up not getting traded and staying. They tried to make it work for a time period. But the difference is Robert Sarver is cheap, and he knew that he would be years of deep, deep luxury tax payments if he made the KD trade. And he gets ousted. In pops a new GM right before the trade deadline. And the new owner, not new GM, new owner, Matt Ishbia, wanted to make a huge splash and wants to just throw his money around and do whatever it takes to build the best possible team. It's something that the Blazers would be great, and we wouldn't be in this situation if their ownership had that same approach. But it's a completely different thing because they had all those assets and they had all their future picks. They had multiple players that they had to include to match salary that were good players or like a Mikal Bridges type player. Cam Johnson is a good player that could, you know, they had to pretty much include those guys just to match salary. And the new owner came in and just was like, okay, let's trade all this stuff. Okay, like, let's just say Miami Heat, their owner, I mean, it's obviously not going to change, but let's just say tomorrow he's like, okay, let's do whatever it takes to get Dame or whatever. Like, they're not trading Jimmy or Bam in the Dame trade, so, like, there's nothing else they can add to the trade. Like, that's they already know what they can give outside of that. So it's not a matter of they're just not willing to do that. It's just they have a certain amount of assets. They can get a certain amount of assets for their other players, and it's just a matter of that to this point has not been good enough for the Portland Trail Blazers, and it's not going to be anywhere close to the Phoenix package, but they're not getting the Phoenix package from other players. Like I don't understand why people think the Blazers have a chance to get a Mikal Bridges type player and 4 firsts and Cam Johnson, like that type of haul for Dame. Like who is giving that up? If you can bring up some teams that might be willing to give up that much for Dame, maybe we can have a conversation about it and look at it. But like to this point, there has not been anyone who's even given more than or offered more than what Miami has offered. So how is that going to be a case where waiting changes any of that?
All Good says, who's saying that Portland hasn't let them know what they want? It's been the reporting all around. Like, it's no secret. Everything from Miami's end is that Portland hasn't let them know what they want. There's really no gain for Miami to even leak that, right? Nothing from Portland has gone against that. I've not heard of a single reporter going against that. I've heard that Portland is making Miami do all the work. They're not communicating with Miami. Like, that has been no secret. It's been common knowledge, I feel like, for a while now, you know?
I mean, that's what Windhorse said today, that the Blazers told them to go scrounge the market and get as many assets as you want or whatever.
Yeah,
but, like, they won't say what they want for those ads. So what?
At this point, like, that's not even a debate at this point because of, like, every direction that's what we've heard. Everywhere, that's what we've heard. And it lines up with Portland being a bit spiteful regarding this entire situation. And it hints as to the relationship between Dame and Portland basically is severed at this point. And that explains a lot of little intricacies that Eric has reported regarding this entire situation. I truly believe Portland is just sitting there hoping another team offers something similar to what Miami could take so they could take it.
Yeah.
That's 1,000% what I believe they're just sitting there hoping for and hoping another team comes in. I think Portland wants, more than anything, to trade Dame anywhere other than Miami. And it's kind of sad. Like, we talk about, should Portland do right by Dame? Portland intentionally does not want to do right by Dame, it seems like at this point. So I still think he ends up getting traded to Miami because I don't think that better package from another team is going to come in. And at some point, Portland, this organization, Joe Cronin, Burt Cole, Jody Allen, all the powers that be will come to, as I said, a fork in the road where they bring Dame into training camp, or they maybe swallow their pride a little bit and sit down with Pat Riley and truly work something out. As far as Miami just going out there and doing all the work, like, there's so many players in the league, there's so many different iterations of packages, like, it just makes no sense for Portland not to tell them what they want at this point. Portland should be trying to figure out what the best return they can get for Damian Lillard, even if you're on the team where Portland shouldn't do right by Damian Lillard, which I can't understand at all. I am vehemently against trying to screw over Dame. I am not mad at how Dame has really handled the situation. I think it's justified. You know, you guys know how I feel about Dame. But regardless of how you feel on Dame and on this entire situation, Portland should just be trying to figure out what the best package they can get back is, no matter who that's from. If that's from another team, okay, fine. If that's from Miami, okay, fine. But they should be willing to do the due diligence to truly find out what that is. And it sounds like they are not trying to figure out what the best package they could get back for Damian Lillard is. How does that make sense? Please tell me how that makes any logical sense from Portland's end. It's not in Portland's best interest. So there's a comment that says, is this he Uprise sheesh, guys? My criticism comes from Portland doing what's best for itself, which the best thing for Portland at this point is getting the best possible return for Damian Lillard.
And moving on, and so we can get excited about Scoot and Sharp and the rebuild and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, getting back cents on the dollar for Damian Lillard is not better for Portland. It's not better for Portland. All my criticism comes from the standpoint of I want Portland to do what's best for itself at this point. And it seems like Portland doesn't really care. That's the problem I have. And that's why I said, regardless of how you feel on this situation, regardless if you disagree with us and Eric's reporting on how things have gone down, regardless of if you like Dame or hate Dame as a Blazer fan, if you're a Blazer fan, you should want what's best for the team, right? That's what people keep telling us when they say, you guys aren't Blazer fans, you're Dame fans. You got to want what's best for the team. Well, okay, let's do what's best for the team. What's best for the team is finding the best package for Damian Lillard. They can figure out the best package for Damian Lillard if they're willing to tell teams that want Damian Lillard what they want back. It's just logic. So, I don't understand.
Well, I think there is some confusion in the Blazers front office on what they want, if they're trying to win or if they're trying to get as many picks or whatever. They're trying to get an all-star like you mentioned earlier in the show. Like, I do think they do still believe they can win this year. So, you know, Jovic and Hawkes don't necessarily help that. So, like, are they still trying to find a team that gives them a player that helps them win this year? Like, that would be crazy in my opinion. But want to get to a couple things in chat. John Shepard asked, why don't the Blazers offer a buyout for Dame? I know I'm missing something because I've not heard anyone propose this. If players bought out, his full contract counts against your salary cap for the remainder of that deal. It can get offset by a little bit of money that he signs for, but Dame would not sign for anything more than the minimum in that situation. So that he could stick it to the Blazers or whatever, but then the Blazers get nothing for Dame. So why would they get nothing for Dame in a trade and have to pay his whole salary and have it count against the salary cap for 4 more years, including 60 plus million in years 3 and 4? Why would they do all that just to get rid of him instead of just trading him somewhere, anywhere, and get at least one first out of it? So that's why there's no buyout. And then Blazer fan mentions Utah as a team that could possibly be in for Damian Lillard at some point. And I'd like to ask, in what part of Danny Ainge's history, since he acquired Garnett and Ray Allen, from that point forward, everything he's done has been more geared towards coveting draft picks and going young and trading players that as they get old, not trading all your picks for a player that's aging. So how would that work to where he's sitting there in Utah in the middle of a rebuild with a ton of extra first round picks, and he's going to give that up for a 33-year-old Damian Lillard? I don't think so. I don't think they care about making the playoffs that much this year, and they're not going to trade for Dame just to make the playoffs this year. That's silly.
They had a team that was consistently making the playoffs with 2 core guys that were younger than Damian Lillard. So why would they pivot away from being a playoff team just to give up all that capital for Damian Lillard just to have an older core player just to try and make the playoffs again? If they were just hell-bent on making the playoffs, they were a better playoff team with Mitchell and Gobert and that core that they had. They were able to make a second round with that core, right? Like if that was their goal, because realistically they are not going to contend next season by pivoting towards Damian Lillard. If that was their goal, why didn't they just keep the same team intact? They chose their direction. That's what a team with a direction looks like. They chose their direction. They chose to go the rebuild route. It would be very silly for Utah to then pivot away from that the following offseason. So I understand that Dame went to Weber State, and that's in Utah, and he said before, if he wasn't a Blazer, he would be a Utah Jazz. There was like a tweet on that from the past from Dame. I understand the connection there, but it just doesn't make logical sense for Utah, and I feel like people are just kind of wish-casting Utah as a destination for Dame simply because of that connection without actually taking into account the fact that they just pivoted away from that type of move.
Yeah, and one, is Dame reporting there? Is he requesting a trade the minute he gets traded there? And 2, like if they had a different GM other than Danny Ainge, I would maybe say that's a possibility. But I mean, I don't see 1 year after trading away those guys and starting a rebuild and hitting home runs on those trades on pieces like Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen that ended up being way better than you could have even hoped for when you traded for them. I just see no way they're going to just pivot and go win now mode, because that team's not even good enough to win a championship with Dame. So like, what would be the point of accelerating their rebuild to make the playoffs? Like, I don't know. I find a hard time believing that would happen.
Yeah. So the problem when having debates like this is it's the heart versus the head, right? Like, as a Blazer fan, your heart wants every team to be willing to give up a ton for Damian Lillard, and it's just to be this all-out bidding war where the package that Portland gets is insanely good and we're set for the next 15 years. The head, the mind, if you just look at all these teams and just try and think about their situation, their assets, all that nerdy stuff that we like to talk about, it just doesn't make sense for a team like Utah to want Damian Lillard. They just pivoted away. They chose their direction. They chose a rebuild route, right? A lot of other teams that would want Damian Lillard, like I've seen people say, I hope Milwaukee wants him. Why? They can give up Drew Holiday and maybe one future first? Like,
I
is
don't
Drew
even think they could trade a first.
Yeah, and Drew Holiday is going to retire in a couple years. Like, what you get back for Drew Holiday is going to be very minimal. And if Milwaukee can trade their, I don't know, like, they don't really have future picks. So, like, whatever Milwaukee could attach on top of that, that's not going to be better than what Miami can offer. So, that's the problem when, like, looking at the landscape, and we were saying this before Dame even requested a trade, it's not set up in a position for the Blazers to capitalize on a Dame trade. That's why I argued against going the young route. There's more reasons why, but that was a big reason. Going the young route meant probably getting a team to trade for Dame and underpay for him. And people made the argument that if Portland traded the third pick, they were going to be overpaying for whatever they got back. But the alternative was essentially getting back less assets for Dame than you should. Either way, in terms of asset value, even if you're making the argument that there wasn't much on the table for the third pick and it was going to be an overpay, if that was true, either way, it results in a situation where Portland isn't going to get great asset value because it's either make that trade with the third pick or trade Dame for less than what you should probably get back for him.
Yeah, they can trade a 2029 first.
2029 first, and what do you guys think we can get back for Drew Holiday?
Or 2030 first, yeah.
Yeah, so one future first, and maybe at most you can get back 2 firsts for Drew Holiday, but he said he's retiring at the end of his contract, which is in 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
I believe.
2 years.
2 years?
Yep.
So Drew Holiday, who's going to retire in 2 years, and a first-round pick is not going to add up to 4 first Jovic and Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. Because I could see Holiday fetching a first, maybe if you're lucky 2. In the end, you're getting back 3 firsts. The Miami's best package is 4 firsts and a first and second year guy who are first-round picks in the past couple of years. Right? And maybe they never become anything, but still, 4 firsts is better than 3. Especially with Miami in 2028 and 2030, because I think those picks could be good. There's a chance. Once Dame is up there in age, Jimmy Butler's up there in age, Pat Riley, who knows if he's still going to be there. He might move on. So Miami could suck. Those picks could be really good in 2028 and 2030. There is a definite possibility of that. So,
yep.
Shout out to the original Dizzy D, $5 dono, says, Cronin doesn't want to trade Dame is the only reason I can come up with. It's the only thing that makes sense. Why wouldn't you say what you want for Dame? Even if Cronin didn't want to trade Dame, telling Miami what types of things you're interested in from a third team isn't even an admission, technically, that you want to trade Dame. It's just saying, okay, well, what could you get for Tyler Herro from a third team? We would be interested in this type of player and this type of pick, right? Mm-hmm. And then they go back and say, we can get you this and this and this. And like, okay, cool. That's not even admitting that you want to trade Dame. That's just doing your due diligence as a GM. Yeah. Like, even if they wanted to keep Dame, with Dame demanding out, obviously if Dame didn't demand out and we were on good terms, then you wouldn't even bother with that. But given the fact that your best player does not want to be here anymore, it's on Joe Cronin to do the due diligence, regardless of if he wants to trade Dame or not. And that's why this feels like it's just out of spite.
And this is the same team that expects you to believe that there was no one interested in Anthony Simons. They couldn't get any good player for him prior to the draft, right? Or even, what was the rumor that they offered Anthony and multiple firsts for OG, and that wasn't enough for OG between the draft and free agency. So, but now they think like Miami's gonna get like a bunch of stuff for Hero. Like, I don't see how that's logical.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same organization that has been misleading every step along the way. Even if you think they had no choice, they just couldn't get anything back for the third pick. I mean, when you look at things, Eric, in terms of building a win-now team around Dame, which was always their goal, out of the third pick, the 7th pick, in 2 full mid-level exceptions, they were not able to get a single win-now player that made sense around Dame. Now, they got a really bright future because of it. The 3rd pick and the 7th pick, you better get a bright future because of it. But you got a point guard and a shooting guard that can maybe play a little bit of small forward when you have Dame and Ant. Neither of those decisions made sense for a win-now team around Dame. Out of the 2 full mid-level exceptions they had, they didn't do anything this summer in free agency. They told you that they had confidence in winning free agent battles at the deadline, but when it came to free agency, they did absolutely nothing. Okay? And then the other full mid-level exception, they signed an injured guard who didn't want to be here. Like, 2 off seasons in a row, you have a top 7 pick and a full mid-level exception, and you're not able to get a single piece out of that to help, like, truly help Dame. I mean, when you said that's your obligation and all the things that Joe Cronin said, I mean, you can believe that he massively failed in regards to what he said he wanted to do. You can believe he wanted to go this route, but it doesn't line up with his prior words. So even if you think he wanted to go this route and chose this route, it's a self-admission, in my opinion, that what Cronin said before, he was not willing to stand on his super bold statements he made about winning around Dame. So at that point, you shouldn't just believe everything. So, regardless of your opinion, I don't think Blazer fans should, some Blazer fans, I don't think they should be as harsh upon the people that are skeptical of this front office. Okay? It's not choosing Miami over Portland. It's not choosing Dame over Portland or all the stuff that I see in this chat every single stream. I think it's a very logical reaction regarding what has gone down. And we've explained that numerous times. We're still covering the team, though, because we're Blazer fans. We're still having the channel because we're Blazer fans. At this point, I think Miami's the best trade for Portland. It's the best resolution for Dame, and they just need to make it happen. Miami needs to give up their best package. I've even held Miami accountable on that. They need to give up their best package. In the end, I think that's the most likely resolution, and then we can move on and discuss Scoot and Sharp and the future and this and that. But I want Portland to make it easier on themselves to get back the best deal from Miami instead of making it harder for everyone involved, because nobody wins if they don't tell Miami what they want.
Also be cool to talk about what we could possibly do in the future with all these draft picks. We have years to talk about it, right?
Yeah, we could be scouting the 2030 draft. Right, actually, yeah, no, we don't scout that early. But future drafts, me and Eric love the draft. Going the young route, I mean, you have hope for the future, and there would be a lot of assets. Me and Eric love talking about hypothetical trades and assets and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, can't. Obviously, college basketball hasn't started yet, so haven't scouted any of the freshmen coming in yet. But as of right now, Alex Sarr is my number 1 prospect on my board. So
Alex Sarr,
I love that guy.
Yeah,
he's gonna be the next big switchable center, great defender, and rebounds and can finish around the hoop.
Can
that
shoot
guy's
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, improving his shot a little bit. I think he has some handles and some playmaking ability. But yeah, that's the kind of guy we need on this rebuild. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, shout out to Brandon Sleep, $5 donut, says, Heat fan now, turned into Blazers Uprise fan. Love your guys' podcast. Wish you guys covered the Heat. Thank you, Brandon, for the $5 dono. I'm glad you enjoy the podcast. Over the years, we've been able to get some regulars here in chat that are fans of other teams, and it's always pretty cool to us to be able to get fans from other teams to enjoy our podcast, enjoy our show. So that's a cool compliment. I always like hearing that. Appreciate the $5 donation. It means a lot.
Yeah, thanks everyone for donating.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll have all season to discuss prospects too. That's why it's like I'm not in a rush to start talking about the draft next year. We will touch upon prospects going into the start of college basketball season instead of near the end. That's just kind of like the mode we're in, but we can't fully transition into that mode until this Dame deal is done, and who knows when that transition will be, because it sounds like it could be in the middle of the season. It sounds like it could be in the next 10 days, which is what I expect. It's just, I want Portland to get back the best package from Miami. If they can get back a noticeably better package from another team, I do feel bad for Dame, and kind of, I've always wanted to do right by Dame, but I understand it. Portland, if they get back an amazing package that's much better than Miami package, like, I won't criticize it. I won't criticize Joe Cronin for getting back a good package for Dame. Right? Yeah. All the stuff leading up to this point, different story. We've already criticized him on that. Just in terms of the trade, I want Portland to do something that's optimal for them. I want to be able to talk about this team having assets to put in play over the future. It's just going to make for more content, better content, more things to talk about. And it should hopefully make the team better. So, of course, that's what I want.
Yep. And I'm not criticizing Joe if he gets 4 firsts from Miami, along with a couple of young players. Like, I think that's good enough under the circumstances. I don't think it's terrible. So, and I'd be happy to move on. I think those assets would help us. But I've been saying all along, I think we already have, if we don't already have this, we're kind of, our rebuild's already screwed anyway, but we should already have 2 major pieces to our rebuild locked in on rookie deals for 3 and 4 more years respectively, and that's Sharp and Scoot. So I really don't think it's like a lot of other situations like Utah, which we brought up earlier, where they don't necessarily have a star. Markkanen makes an all-star game last year, so maybe he continues to develop and get better, but they don't have like a guy that you think is going to lead them to a championship on their roster. So they need those picks and those assets to develop. Whereas, I think we can all agree, Scoot, if he's not a star, we're in trouble, right? But everyone thinks Scoot is going to be a star, pretty much everyone that's a Blazer fan, right? So regardless of how you feel about the Dame situation, I think we all agree that Scoot is the guy, and we already have him on the roster, and that's better than any other real rebuild start with. So I'm fine with getting as many firsts as you can. If that's only 4 and a couple young guys, I think that's fine. I don't think it's the end of the world, because I don't think this Dame trade will ultimately be what decides if this rebuild works or not.
There's a comment that says, you want Miami because you are a Dame fan, not a Blazers fan at the end of the day. Be honest. First off, before I finish the rest of the comment, if you say that we are not Blazers fans, I just lose all respect for anything that you have to say, because that is just clueless and ridiculous, okay? Like, people love to speak on us without having the slightest clue of what they are talking about. Just plain and simple. That's my honesty. Okay?
I'm 44 years old. I've been a Blazer fan my whole life. Damian Lillard's only been on the team for 11 years. That's only a quarter of my life. Don't tell me I'm not a Blazer fan.
It's just silly. Like, you're basically just talking shit is what you're doing. And it's just pointless. Like, the rest of that comment said, you telling me if the Pelicans offered Zion, you still think picks with rookies from the Heat is better. Guess what? My opinion on a Zion Williamson trade is going to be based on what I think is better for the Blazers. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, 8 first-round picks from the Oklahoma City Thunder is worse than 4 first-round picks from the Miami Heat because I want Dame to be a Heat. Of course, I'm going to analyze every single trade package based on the trade package. Guess what? We might disagree. You might want Zion more. I might not want Zion because he can't stay healthy for the life of him. And because I don't know if he'd want to stay here long term. There's a lot of question marks with Zion. Wanting 4 firsts, which down the line, those Miami firsts could be top 5 in 2028, 2030. You could end up with a star, right? Those could be huge trade chips to put in play around a team that maybe is already contending if our rebuild goes well. There is noticeable upside with the Miami package that I feel like people that hate Dame in this situation don't want to acknowledge. Okay? Zion comes with a lot of question marks. If you want Zion more, that's fine. But if I don't want Zion more than the Heat package, that's going to be based on all the question marks with Zion, and because I don't think the Heat package is as bad as you think. That's not based upon me not being a Blazer fan. And anybody that continues to say that, at this point, we'll just start banning people for saying that, because it's just BS, and you're misleading people about us. It's just misinformation, because if you think we're not Blazer fans, you are absolutely clueless.
Well, also, I mean, there's absolutely no credence to any reports, or there hasn't been any information about Zion being offered for Dame or the Pelicans wanting Dame. It's another one of those wishful thinking things. And if the Pelicans do trade for Dame, it's more like it'll be CJ back in picks, or CJ going to another team and picks, and you're probably going to have to give one of those picks for another team to take CJ. So, I mean, if we could trade Dame for McHale and Claxton, I'd probably take that over the Heat package, but that's not an offer right now. And Dame's not going to want to play for New Orleans or Brooklyn if they don't have McHale. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So that's the thing, where you have to think about the situation of the team that you're making a trade with, because that's going to affect what they're going to give up. There's a comment. Edmund Martin says, a Portland fan told me yesterday that they would take Rudy Gobert from the Wolves for Dame.
I mean, why?
That is like as directionless of a trade as you could make if you're Portland. Like, where is the upside? Here's the thing. If Portland trades Dame for the Miami package, they're worse this year than if they traded Dame for Rudy Gobert. Right? They're worse. They're a better team with Rudy Gobert. Guess what? They're still probably a lottery team with Rudy Gobert. Guess what the difference is? With Rudy Gobert, we get the 12th pick. With the Miami package, we get the 5th pick, the 6th pick, the 7th pick, something that range, and we have better odds to jump into the top 4, right? So we're in play for an Alexander Sarr type of big man, who I think in the first season or two could be as impactful as Rudy Gobert will be in a couple seasons. Because Rudy Gobert is on the decline. And
that would be our pick, and we'd still have all the assets from the trade.
This team is not going to win a championship in the next 2 years. Regarding what sort of moves they should make, it should be with their sights set on 3 to 5 years from now. Because that's when they're going to enter contention if they do. Mm-hmm. This team had Damian Lillard, had the 3rd pick, had the 7th pick, had 2 full mid-level exceptions, and had 2 other 20-point-per-game scorers on top of the best player in franchise history, and couldn't come close to contention, and there was supposedly nothing they could do to contend. So how are they going to contend anytime soon if they had no chance of getting contention with that? But now once they have a 19-year-old Scoot Henderson and a 20-year-old Shaedon Sharpe, and how are they going to get to contention in the next couple of years? Realistically, that's kind of my gripe with some of the trades that are tossed out there that Blazer fans say they want. Chat's wildin', man. Sites need to be set in the future. We're in rebuild mode. Are you in the comment that said, like, just because you guys have a platform doesn't mean you or me are less of a fan?
Yeah, dude, you're the one who said we weren't Blazer fans. We said nothing about your fandom. Like, we didn't question your fandom at all. You're the one questioning our fandom. How are we using the platform to say you are less of a fan? We said the exact opposite, if you were paying attention, that no one should be told how their fandom should be or how they should be a fan.
Rosity USA says, you boys are really inspiring me to start a podcast. I'm glad we could inspire you.
Go do it, man.
Yeah, go start a podcast. Drop us a link. We'll watch. We'll see how long we watch for. I'll try to watch or listen. If we can inspire people to start a podcast, that's a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly, Taylor.
Yeah. Do you think Nurk will be on the squad to start the year? Yes, I do.
I do too.
He's already working out with the team, so it's going to be weird, but I don't think he's. I think he's a pretty good center to have next to Scoot for his development, simply because he sets amazing screens. And Scoot's going to have a ton of space to work with off pick and rolls early in his NBA career. He might have more space to work with than he did in the G League. And watching him learn how to manipulate that space will be fun to watch. It'll be a good thing for him to learn how to manipulate that space by manipulating, weaving the pick and roll, seeing if you can get to his other hand, working on that float game, because with his speed and athleticism, a lot of bigs, if they're playing drop, will just back up. So getting that floater dialed in, which from year 1 to year 2 in the G League, he made a lot of positive progress regarding developing a floater, and a lot of good NBA guards at his height get by with a floater from that range. Trae Young's really good. Dame's developed one. Ant. He'll resort to some hook shots more than floaters at times, but, you got to have those in-between shots. Having space off the pick and roll for him to have a little bit more leeway in terms of like what he chooses to do, and a little bit more time as defenders recover to make reads, I think will be good for his development. He's a guy that already knows how to draw defenders and kick. I think having space off pick and rolls will be a positive thing for him, and I think Nurkic provides that space because he sets one of the best screens in the league. I know he drives some fans crazy, but I think that's a good thing for Scoot.
Yeah, and who cares if he's missing layups next year, right?
Yeah.
If that's what you want to complain about, who cares, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. If Scoot is diming Nurk up and he's missing layups, we're sitting there like, okay, well, Nurk is not the long-term answer next to Scoot probably, so when we draft Alexander Sarr or whatever big man, maybe it's a Klingon, hopefully these dimes that Scoot is giving our big man will be converted if he's missing layups.
Right.
And the thing is, if we're a lottery team and we're tanking the whole second half of the year, in the first half of the year, if Nurk is missing layups, is it really a bad thing? If the result is just going to be a lottery appearance, it's not, not so bad. I get it's frustrating. Frustrates me too. I don't like bigs that when they miss layups. Layups that they should finish at least. So.
Yeah. Ryan West asks, percentage chance Scoot is dealt this year? -0. I don't know. There's no chance. He's not getting traded.
Yeah. I think if Milwaukee, with what Giannis said recently, like straight up offered him for Scoot in, whatever salary gets us there, I don't think Portland doesn't. That's just truly how I feel. Maybe they would jump at it. But I think they chose this path.
I want to pay for that team.
Yeah. This dude that said we weren't Blazer fans says he has 30,000 subs and doesn't need a podcast for his content. If that last comment was blasted at him, I guess he's arguing with chat. Like, bro, just don't say we're not Blazer fans, all right? Just don't say we're not Blazer fans. Like, people come in here and start drama by just talking shit, and it's just pointless. Like, if you disagree with us, articulate a logical reason as to why and have a conversation. Sitting here saying, you guys aren't Blazer fans, you chose Dame, it's just dumb. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. You guys, if you've watched us for a while, you've seen us emotionally upset at this team because we're fans. A lot of people say we're too emotionally invested with this team. We get too frustrated. We get too upset. We're not professional enough.
Trevin said he thought we were telling him to go start a podcast. No, we were reading Rose City USA's chat saying we're inspiring him to go start a podcast.
Yeah, I read it. What are we doing here?
Everyone thinks it's so easy to do.
I know. Yeah, that podcast comment was not... I was reading off chat. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Why do we do this? Why do we do this, chat? In regards to the few of you in chat that do this?
Devin was asking what percentage chance you see of Scoot winning Rookie of the Year. Um, I think Dame has to be gone, first of all, or not playing at least. Um, and I think it's already going to be severely weighted towards Wemby. So Wemby would have to really struggle or um, maybe miss a bunch of games or be load managed enough to where he doesn't really have a like super successful season. Because I guess with all the hype around him, if he's just like a little above average, it might seem disappointing. But I still think he'd get a lot of love. And then Chet's gonna probably have a good season too if he can stay healthy. So he does have some competition. And of course, there's some other rookies that will probably get some playing time that could be good. But yeah, I think if Dame's gone and they hand the reins to Scoot like they did with Dame in his rookie year, I think he's got at least 33%.
Yeah. I'd say what's the line? Like plus 300?
Yeah, something like that.
Plus 300 to plus 400, I think, is a fair line for him. If it's, plus 450, plus 500, that's probably a pretty good bet. And we do have a new sportsbook sponsor for next season. So maybe we'll have a segment before the season, maybe a couple segments before the season, talking about some of the lines with that sportsbook. So, nice. Because... yeah, if you guys are really confident in Scoot getting it, I'm sure you can get pretty good odds on that. It can just be a fun season-long thing to talk about. So, we'll see. Anyway, dude, people just want to argue tonight. Rose City USA wants to argue tonight.
That's not what I was saying.
People just, struggling to not argue. But yeah, we hear things all the time. You guys should do this with the podcast. You guys should do that. If you guys did this, you would be growing more. You morons only have 3,500 subs, even though this is our second channel. We're trying to get to 10K on the main one. Like, we hear it all the time. Building the platform has been maybe the hardest thing I've done in my life. And you can say, oh, well, you haven't done enough hard things in your life. It's not easy. It's not easy to start a sports podcast.
It was from scratch.
For a team like the Portland Trail Blazers. Guess what? If I was a Suns content creator the last 4 years, we probably have double the sub count right now. You know what I mean? It's hard. This team is hard to cover. This team has been a mess the last 4 years. I'm a Blazer fan, obviously. Like, I'm not doing this just to have the most subs possible. If that was the case, I probably would have just done NBA content the last 4 years. So, I mean, that's the thing is it's not just about, I'm going to do whatever it takes to grow the platform as much as possible. Like, obviously, I want the platform to grow, but I want to do it the way I want to do it. I want to do it the way Eric wants to do it. We don't have opinions for popularity. We don't have opinions to please people. It's not what we do. Not what we do. So, we hear comments all the time from people thinking that they could run this channel much better than we could. And they just have no respect for... it's just disrespectful. So, it's frustrating. It's frustrating. Anyway.
If Jeremy and Yusuf Nurkic on the game, we will go to the playoffs. You all are blind. Wake up.
We have reached late night hours of Blazers Uprise Live.
Okay. That's not okay. Cool.
How's Locked On Blazers getting these interviews? I mean, it's a podcast network with a host that has connections to people that have connections.
And credentials. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a, if we had credentials, if we were nicer to Cronin, maybe we could have, a little bit more in terms of guests, but I don't know. That's not really what we're focused on. We're not going to placate to anything or anyone.
If we throw out that we shouldn't say this, but there's other teams offering stuff for Dame to help him,
What do you mean?
to help Cronin out. We don't throw him bones like that, so.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. It's fine that, if you like Locked On, that's great. They can be your stop for interviews for Sharp and that sort of thing, and we can be your stop for something else. Rose City, appreciate the compliment.
Um,
Appreciate the compliment.
yeah, and Elizabeth Allen has a great point. So, for that guy who thinks we're going to make the playoffs, Terry, yeah, go make a bet on it, dude. You can make a ton of money. I'd be thrilled for you.
Just wait to make the bet until we have our sportsbook in place for next season, our sportsbook sponsor, and then you can use our code and get bonus. So I mean, if you're that confident, bet responsibly. Don't advocate you to bet irresponsibly, of course.
No, I want him, Terry, to bet irresponsibly. On the middle of April next year, I want you to be on the last post game show of the season when we're going to the playoffs, like rubbing us in how much money you made because we're dumbasses and you were smart enough to bet thousands of dollars on the Blazers, and you got it.
Connor, Uprise as a promo code is pretty cool, I think. Easier to remember. Flex on us when we're wrong. You know what I mean? PDX Rick, I mean, that's what I've always said is some people will like us, some people won't like us. A particular type of fan definitely wouldn't like us if they just want to be positive and want to feel good about the team. We're competitive. Like, we will criticize the team. I know some people aren't into that, and I respect that, Other podcasts are maybe a little bit more geared for them, right? Like, every podcast is different. And that's the thing when I tell people starting podcasts is find a niche. A problem with a lot of people that try and do sports podcasts is they just don't bring much to the table compared to any other random fan that started a podcast. In terms of content or ideas or knowledge or entertainment or anything. So you want to have strengths that set you apart. And different podcasts are going to have different strengths that set them apart. And that's going to appeal to different types of people. That's fine. I've always respected that, I always just try and be the best that I can be. We try and be the best that we can be. And we will have confidence and have reasons for why we think and feel a certain way, even if there's half the fan base saying you guys aren't real Blazer fans. That's, you know what I mean? Like, we won't run away from that. That's fine.
Poor Blazer Full says, do you guys have a second favorite team you'll be investing more time in this upcoming season? Pacers Uprise.
Pacers Uprise, yeah. I don't have time to invest in another team, unfortunately. I might do NBA content on NBA Uprise. I guess I'll drop a link for any fans of other teams that, I need an editor for next season, truthfully. That's where having a couple more sponsorships will help. I'll elaborate on stuff that I'm doing regarding, I'm basically helping run a business with someone. That's probably the most that I can say. But I'll let you guys know in the future, hopefully. I just don't know when I can elaborate on some of the stuff we're doing.
I mean, I'm just going to be honest because I always am. I of course I never root for a second team. Never. I don't have a second favorite team in any of my sports. Of course, there's, cool stories or whatever, underdog, if your team's out of it, that you can root for. But, never. I don't have a second favorite team in any sport. But this season, if Dame's traded and the Blazers are not very good, I will be rooting for Dame to win a chip, whatever team he's on. So whether that's the Heat or, the Sixers or whatever team, Utah Jazz, I will be rooting for Dame to win a ring just because I think he deserves to win a ring, and I hope he does, as long as the Blazers aren't standing in his way.
Yeah. Because believe it or not, you can be both a Blazer fan and a Dame fan. That's what I am, you know. Will you guys touch on Dame next season if he's not on the Blazers? Absolutely. On our post game, yeah. So on our main channel, Brandon, we have post game streams and we do an around the NBA segment. We have like a live score ticker on the bottom. We'll have stat sheets. There's a little bit of a teaser, but we'll have like stat sheets for every game as like a coded graphic next year. Like we really build out our post game shows. And then on this channel, Monday, Thursdays, once the season starts, we go live at 6:30 Pacific right before games start, and we pick the spread on every game. So we talk a little bit about each game. So we do talk a bit about other NBA stuff, and with Dame being in Miami, if that happens, we'll have a focus on that. You know, every game I'm going to read out Dame's stat line, talk about a little bit about him, because he, in my opinion, is the greatest Blazer of all time, and was everything I would want a star Blazer to be. So, you know, it's not going to be a situation where like, oh, Dame's not here, I'm just going to pretend he doesn't exist. It'll be tough watching him in another uniform for sure, but you know, he's done a lot of good things here. He's created a bunch of great moments. The first series I ever watched this team won was Game 6 against the Houston Rockets. I was there in person and saw Dame hit that buzzer beater. It's one of the greatest moments of my life with how emotionally invested I am in this team. It was one of the coolest things to see, like, great moment. You know what I mean? Dude's given us a lot of great moments. I'm not just going to then pretend he doesn't exist and wash all that from history. So, like, I truly appreciate what he's done here, and I understand the fans are upset, but years down the line, I think we'll welcome him back. Maybe some fans won't. We're a little crazy in the Northwest, but we'll see.
Yep.
There's a couple comments I wanted to get to. I do like you guys just don't like the Heat trade because Dame wants it. He waited to sign extension to get bag and then trade out. So once again, this organization, he didn't want to sign an extension if this organization didn't convince him that they were set on winning, and they did, and then their actions didn't match up with that. He was misled, essentially, when he signed that extension. This organization has been misleading him for a while now, so he wanted to be here. Everything he said was, like, he was here for 11 years, through multiple years where it's like, oh, he could easily ask out, like other stars would ask out, but he was still here in Portland. He stayed as long in Portland as you could expect any other star to, with some of the dysfunction that went around building the roster in regards to, you know, it being Portland. He wanted to be here. He wouldn't have been here as long as he was if he didn't want to be here. He didn't want to completely go back on his word. He didn't sign that extension with the plan to completely go back on his word. He did not have some master plan to go back on his word 11 years into his tenure as a Blazer. He wanted to win in Portland. It's just this organization wasn't really committed to making that happen. And even if you think they were, they didn't make the moves to make that a possibility. They didn't even, move-wise, they didn't even give Dame a shot. So that's why. It's not that he held out for an extension just so that he could get it and then get traded. He wanted to win.
Yep.
But
I'm a traitor and a sellout for mentioning that.
But, like, if you disagree with us on that, that doesn't make us not Blazer fans. We don't have to attack each other's fandom. Okay? Like, we can respect a difference of opinion. And I am hard on people regarding their opinions a lot of times. You know, if they're turning on Dame and just believing everything the front office has told them, despite them being misleading, yeah, I'm going to be hard on that opinion. But something I try and live by, Eric, attack the opinion, not the person. Okay? Address the opinion, not the person. I don't always live up to that. But normally it's with somebody that also is not living up to that. You know, it can devolve into some BS a lot of times. But if you're in here watching us and say you're a Blazer fan, I believe you. 100%, no matter how you feel. Anyway.
There is a difference between saying you're fine if you don't succeed in winning a championship. That won't be the end of the world, and an organization continually to not even give you a chance to win a championship after promising you would. Oh, good. Ed Halen is in here. Nice.
That was the dude that was... Yeah.
Apparently, I'm a traitor and a sellout because I went on a Miami Heat podcast to explain what led up the last 2 years into
a traitor and a sellout.
Yeah. I don't know how I didn't get paid for it. How is that being a sellout? I'm not getting paid by anyone to do that.
Some of you are just too focused on trying to bring me or Eric down. All right, like that's just silly. That's just clueless. That's just clueless. If you don't believe him, fine. You can believe something else. Cool. Eric's always said, if you don't believe me, that's fine. But you don't believe Eric, so you call him a sellout and a traitor. Get out of here, man. I just don't got time for that type of crap. It's just immature. Now more people are going to watch your guest appearance on that podcast. So that comment, him coming in here, backfired. Now more people are going to go listen to it. It was the, what was the name of it again? You posted it in the chat? I
just posted it in chat. So it's a little confusing because their YouTube channel is called
5 Reasons Sports Network.
5 Reasons Sports Network, but it's 5 on the Floor guys who I did it with. Yeah. I think they have other people on there.
Yeah. Eric, here. I'll put it in Eric's guest appearance on a Miami podcast. I'm putting the link in chat, and that's what I'm titling it, okay? Save. Alright. It's in the description, so if you guys want to go watch Eric's appearance on a Miami podcast. Watch Eric be a traitor and a sellout. I raised you so well. Only reason Eric's a traitor and a sellout is because of me. You know, I inspire him. So you know, I'm here talking about, oh yeah, we got a sportsbook sponsor for next year. I'm the real sellout. Okay, so if you think Eric's a sellout, it's just because of me. All right.
No, Ed Halen, I don't want Hero. Like I don't know what you're even saying.
Oh man.
When have I ever said I wanted Hero? Like
yeah, we don't want Hero. We've been very vocal about
I don't understand.
Not wanting a million guards.
It's nothing. I mean, we talked about Tyrese Maxey earlier, and we didn't really say that. We probably should have prefaced it by saying it's like Tyrese Maxey is awesome. You know, Tyler Hero is pretty good. Like normally I would want those type of players in a trade, but in this particular situation where even after a Dame trade, we've talked at length on this channel about how is it going to work with the 3 players that are left with Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, and Shaedon Sharpe, let alone adding a Hero or a Maxey to that mix. It just, yeah. Rich said I sold out, and I'm really bad at it because I didn't even get paid. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. We'll work on that. Yeah, we just, if we had a logjam of forwards, I'd be willing to take back Tyler Hero.
Yeah,
There'd be some value in Tyler Hero if we needed a guard. The problem is we don't need guards. Like, it's just very, very simple. Like, I feel like none of our opinions are too complicated. It's just like we have a lot of guards, even if we trade Dame. We shouldn't value guards as much as we value front court players, and then also we should value the future, so future unprotected picks and unprotected swaps potentially down the line when this team is like getting into playoff status, maybe even contention status, and 3 or 4 years in a row, if Miami's struggling, could have a really high draft pick, puts you in a position where it's like almost impossible not to build a contender if everything goes right. That's what I'm focused on. So, that we should value that over guards. Well, I love Tyrese Maxey. I love Tyrese Maxey in the draft. There's a reason why when we were talking about the Philadelphia trade package with James Harden and Tyrese Maxey, it was you got to see what you could get from a third team for those guys because James Harden doesn't make sense with his age and he's a guard, and then Tyrese Maxey, even though he's younger and fits the timeline, is a guard. We don't need guards.
Well, even on top of not needing them, if you have a player like that is a scorer or probably needs the ball to develop a little more, it doesn't let you get the maximum development out of Scoot and Sharp, in my opinion. I think Sharp showed at the end of last season that he could do some things if you put the ball in his hands and let him run pick and roll and do that kind of stuff. And then Scoot obviously is going to be a ball dominant player, and Anthony has turned into a pretty good player with the ball. So that's my whole thing. Is it's not anything against any players. I just don't want a guard. Like Kyle Lowry's fine because he doesn't have to play that much or at all, and I think he'd be a decent mentor. And then you might be able to use his $30 million contract to get, make a trade at the deadline, maybe even using those picks or whatever. So, that's why I don't want guards. But
yeah, there's a couple comments. I just want Jody Gone and the team to go all in and have Dame to win. Here is all. I wanted to build around Dame too, and I want Jody Gone too, but that's just not gonna happen. Like, Jody is not gonna be forced to sell anytime soon. Maybe she does sell, but sounds like she's here to stay, and they've chosen a different path than Dame. So yeah, that's what I wanted more than anything going into this offseason. But at this point, that's out the window, unfortunately. We should hold out so we get everything and more for a top 75 player. Lillard is better than anyone on the Heat. Here's the thing. We're not going to get back Lillard's a top 10 player in the league. Nobody's going to trade a top 10 player for Damian Lillard. And we shouldn't necessarily want a top 10 player with Damian Lillard because we should be focused on being as good as possible in the future if we're trading Dame. Like picks makes it maybe a little bit easier to be really good 4 or 5 years from now than getting back a Joel Embiid or someone like that. And that's if a team was willing to trade a player like that, which they're not. So it's just kind of the reality of the situation with where we're at right now.
But wouldn't you want, like, I'm trying to think of someone. I don't know. Paul George when he was traded from the Pacers to the Thunder or whatever. Like, you'd have the pieces to make that kind of trade in a couple of years with all the extra assets you have. So why I don't understand the need to get that player now. Like, we wouldn't want to trade for Paul George right now, but if you get a Paul George level player in 5 years or something, or 3 years or whatever, then that then we're set, right? We'd have Scoot, Sharp, whatever that Paul George level player is, and multiple other draft picks in the process. Like, I don't know. It's weird that people think you have to make that move right now. I've talked about this before, but the 2021 Miami first was initially traded for Goran Dragic, who was really good at the time, and then Phoenix traded it in the Mikal Bridges trade, so that's how they got Mikal Bridges, and then Philadelphia traded to the Clippers for Tobias Harris, and then the Clippers used it as one of the main pieces of the trade package to get Paul George to the Clippers. So that pick was traded 4 times for 4 pretty good players. I know it wasn't just the pick, but that's how you use assets to get better. And it's not like that had no value in any trade because it was the Miami Heat future pick and no one valued it at all. Like, no, a lot of people did. Yeah.
Anyway. Any other questions for our show today before we sign off? I think this was a pretty entertaining stream. I mean, I can't wait to read all the hate comments after this one because we get a few of them.
For the record, Ed, everything I said on that show, I've said multiple times on this channel, so I don't know.
I'm surprised you'd show your face on your podcast again. How could you show your face after saying what you said, Eric? You should be embarrassed. Oh, man. Like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? It's the Heat podcast. Yeah, there's a link in the description box below. If it's not there, refresh the stream and it should show up. I mean, Eric hears a lot of stuff. I hear some stuff. Like, Eric is just operating based on what he's heard. And he has a very legitimate reason to believe what he's heard. And if some of the people that hate on him heard what he's heard and where he's heard it from, they would question their own opinions. They would have nothing to say. But because they, instead they choose to slander him. If you don't think what he's heard is true, then that's fine. But that's not Eric. That's
sang like a bird for the Heat fans. What are you talking about?
All right, it is time to ban this dude. He's going. I was hoping that letting him just like have a conversation maybe would allow him to think a little bit. He ain't interested. He's just talking. He's just slandering you. So we'll move on.
Elemental asks, would you laugh if Scoot Dame timed Lillard if they beat the Heat, if Blazers win with Dame on the team, or be mad at it? LOL. I mean, if we're talking about in the finals, I'm not laughing. I'm celebrating. If we're talking about a regular season game and it costs us a higher lottery pick or something, I'm not necessarily getting super excited about it, but I'm not laughing either. I mean, that'd be kind of funny. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm still rooting for the Blazers, but I do think it'll help us to be bad this year.
I want the Blazers to win a championship. That's what I'm rooting for. Here's the thing. We gotta stop questioning people's fandoms for the millionth time. All right? It's pointless. It's pointless. It's just disrespectful. Like, and you do not. A lot of people act like they know people when they don't. Okay? Because people would question the fandom of those who wanted to lose when the organization was actively trying to set up the team to lose. Like, the organization wanted to lose at the end of the past 2 seasons. But there was a vocal minority probably out there that said, if you're rooting for the Blazers to lose, you're not a Blazer fan. Well, I'm just rooting for A, what the organization wanted at the end of the last 2 seasons, and B, I'm rooting for a championship or the opportunity to win a championship. That's not being a Blazer fan. That sounds like being a Blazer fan to me. Winning games that don't matter in the long run versus losing games and having a chance to win a championship, I'm going to take the latter. I want a freaking championship. I want to contend. I'm tired of mediocrity. I'm tired of never once in my life have I felt like the Blazers team that I'm watching has been a contender. Even when they made the Western Conference Finals, it was like, wow, I can't believe we got here. Oh my goodness. I want the same feeling watching the Blazers that I do when I watch my San Francisco 49ers, where it's like, we better get back to the conference championship game, and this year we better win it. And this year we better win a championship. If we don't win a championship, we failed. Because I can still appreciate the fact that they're good and will win a bunch of games and the whole entire process of a regular season and then the playoff victories. That's the funnest part of being a fan. The high expectations, it comes down to, in June, are the Blazers winning basketball games or not? I want to have that be what determines our mood for the entire season. I want that to be the climax of the season, not freaking February when the trade deadline is, because then we tank the rest of the year.
Even though I will say, I mean, that it probably was the best decision to tank at the end of both the last two seasons.
Yeah.
Both can be true.
So, I mean, I'm tired. Like, here's the thing. If we end up in a tanking mode, I'm rooting for them to lose so we don't have to tank again. I'm tired of freaking tanking.
Well, we need to tank for 2 years, but that's another story.
That's half of this channel. That's half of Blazers Uprise lifespan has been spent tanking. I'm sitting here like, I'm going to do all this new content next year, but how this team is probably going to be close to the bottom of the conference, you know? So now it's like, crap, I have to do more than ever to entertain people. It sucks. It'd be easy to just, oh yeah, we're live. We won another game. We dominated. We look great, Eric. I want those post-game streams. That's easier than anything. Hopefully we can get there. Hopefully we get there sooner than later. But the one thing with the rebuild, as bad as I want that, I don't want to prematurely cut the rebuild short and get stuck in the same position where we're a playoff team but not a contender. Does that make sense? Chat, like, if it takes us struggling for a while, but it results in a contender, I just want a contender. I don't want to be stuck on this cycle where we're mediocre, playoff team, maybe we can go on one Cinderella conference finals run, and then we're tanking again. I don't want to go on that cycle. I want to contend. Go ahead, Eric.
I know what's going to happen now. You just jinxed it.
What's going to happen now?
We're going to trade for like OG Anunoby at the trade deadline and make the playoffs and lose our pick, and he's going to walk in free agency, and because we're going to get killed in the first round. And yeah, it will have lost a couple of our assets along the way.
If that happened, we'd be sitting there criticizing Cronin for making that trade for OG. And it'd be, wait, I thought you guys wanted OG. Isn't this the type of small forward you said you wanted? You just want to hate on Cronin. That's what that would be. But if you're in rebuild mode, no short-term rentals where you lose a long-term asset just for a first-round playoff loss. And that's going to be a lot of the conversation when it comes to team building over the next year, is putting ourselves in a position years down the line to contend. Because we're not going to contend next year. A move at the deadline to win next year without its sights set on the future doesn't make sense. Because we're not going to win a championship next year. I would love more than anything to be wrong. Would love to be wrong on that. Trust me. But realistically, I know the whole thing is, what's the acronym? TBAT. I don't remember. The Blazers are winning the championship or whatever.
Are going to win the championship.
Are going. Well, yeah, they're going to win the championship in 2028 when they have Cooper Flagg and Scoot dominating and 2 top 10 players.
And Alex Sarr. Thanks to 2 years of tanking. And Elemental says, if we tank this year, we tank until our draft picks come out for the Lillard trade in 2028. Okay, see, this is the problem. This might be a joke, so I'm sorry if it is, but I see multiple people saying stuff like that. You have other teams' picks. It doesn't matter what you do. Like, so it doesn't, if we tank the next 4 years, it has no impact on what that pick from Miami ends up being in 2028 because it's Miami's pick. It doesn't matter what that is. Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't want as many good players to put around Scoot as possible. Like, it does. I don't know. What am I missing?
Eric. They said LOL. That's what they said. I said LOL.
I know, but I'm just saying because I see multiple people say that. Like, those.
The reason why it works as a tongue-in-cheek statement is because people actually say that, and that's part of the reason why we can't tell if that's tongue or cheek or not. Because there are people out there
similar.
Like, there are people out there that, oh, we're gonna end up tanking for years. Like, we need to try and be good. We can't. like they're just vehemently against tanking, and you don't go into the season like we're gonna purposefully lose, but you go into the season, as I've said numerous times before, you go into the season with the focus being on developing your young guys. And if that goes better than expected, maybe you're in a play-in at the end of the year. But guess what? For the long term, that's not going to be a bad thing, because if the Blazers are in the play-in this year, it means Scoot is phenomenal as a 19-year-old rookie. It means Shaedon Sharpe took a huge step. It means Anthony Simons is probably a star. And if that's the situation, then we're in a pretty good spot going forward, because you would only expect Scoot to get better and Sharpe to continue to get better. Like, it's not something where I'm hoping to be terrible this season. It's not something where I'm hoping not to be a playoff team this season. It's something where I'm hoping the priority is developing our young pieces more than anything. I don't want it to be we're going to go out for a rental and trade a first-round pick for a rental, maybe an OG Anunoby to try and make a playoff spot. That should not be a main priority this year. It should just be about developing the young guys, because that's what's going to matter the most.
If you do trade an asset for a good player or a player right now, even a second-round picks, it's got to be someone who you think is part of your core moving forward. Otherwise, You don't make that trade.
Yep. And that's just going to be the mindset. We're going to try and reiterate it, and kind of paint that picture, because it's a different mindset than we've been in. And I think we're still kind of adjusting to that sort of mindset, especially fans that have just checked out this offseason, maybe haven't watched us for a couple months. They're used to us, like, we got to build around Dame. We got to build. We got to be aggressive. We got to, be willing to put picks in play. And it's a completely different tune. But, I mean, that's the thing, is it's a different direction now.
But here's the other thing. I mean, this might include trading Jeremy for an expiring and an asset or something at the deadline. But if you traded Dame, let's just say we got Kyle Lowry back, or Tobias Harris, insert your expiring contract in there. The Blazers are set up to potentially have a lot of cap space then. And it's not for free agents. That's not why we would get cap space. But cap space in this new CBA is going to be better than having good trade assets, in my opinion, because there are going to be teams that end up not being as good as they think they're going to be, or are not wanting to pay the tax because they didn't contend the year before, and they're going to start having to incentivize teams to take on contracts. And if you're one of the few teams that has cap space and are willing to take on contracts, that helps you a lot in your asset acquisition, and you can get stuff that way. So that's another hidden part of a Dame trade. If we get some sort of expiring contract, is it does set up a savvy GM to make those kind of moves in the future. Now, it's still yet to be determined if Cronin can do that, but that would be the mindset I would have.
Yep. Shout out to B Skrilla with a $5 sticker. Says keep it up. And it's the little bean guy lifting some weights. We will, man. I mean, we're not going anywhere. After all this, we're still here. If we're here through all this, we can handle anything, Hopefully we've already hit rock bottom. Like, okay. The worst thing that could happen is this team moves. That might be the only thing that could happen to get me to stop covering this team.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. Knock on wood a million times, but yeah.
For those people that are impatient too, I want this. They chose the rebuild route. They chose to move on from Dame. I just want them to do it right. Like, don't mess it up then. Like, you have Scoot, you have Sharpe, you have Anthony, you have some good players. Don't mess it up. Like, let's do this right. And you could theoretically build a 10-year window where we could be competing for a championship if you make the right moves. Now, that's easier said than done, but let's just put this team in the best possible position to have the longest window possible to contend. And that would be a lot of fun. So, like, but that going all in to make the playoffs like the Blazers did in the 2015-2016 season, after everyone, their starting lineup got taken apart outside of Dame. Yeah, it was cool. CJ won's most improved player, and they win a first round series and all that stuff, but that didn't set them up to build off of that. In fact, that kind of stunted them from getting better because they thought they were much better than they were. So I just want to be in a position where every single move is just predicated on maximizing both that window and the ceiling of this team.
And here's the thing, we lay it out what our criteria is for the GM. Like, what our opinion is, what you can think they want. You can think they should go in a different route, whatever. But the route that we think they should go in, and we will articulate why it makes sense, just like Eric did. We set the standard before things happen. It's not just, oh, Cronin does something, oh, we hate it, screw Cronin. And we just hate Cronin. It's not that. Before this offseason, I said, you know what, he's had enough chances. If he can't make something happen this offseason, I'm not going to buy excuses that he couldn't make anything happen, because that's what we had been hearing for the past year and a half. Like, this is the point where you either have to execute or you have an inability to execute. Of course, I thought he wanted to build around Dame, so I didn't consider him switching off of that. But it was basically like, you're either a GM who executes or doesn't. And you can sit here and say there was nothing good out there, but after, multiple opportunities, it starts to look like you just can't execute. So I'm just going to criticize what he does or doesn't do. It became much more than that, but that was the standard I set for Cronin in April. And then he gets the third pick, so he has a better pick than we expected. Because odds are we were going to end up with the 6th or 7th pick, so now he has an even better pick. And now all of a sudden, Charlotte's 2, so Scoot's there on the board. So it comes down to, okay, if you want to win around Dame, at some point you got to execute, and he never did. But I set that standard before the offseason. Now him just choosing a different route and the way he's misled Dame and all this crap regarding this situation has made me much more critical. But that's the thing. We set the standard, and that's the standard we're setting if we go into rebuild mode, which we will if we trade Dame. We set the standard for what type of trade they should get back for Dame. Okay? We'll set the standard for what the direction should be in the future. We will be the first people to criticize him if they're trading assets for a rental at the trade deadline because they're in 11th place and want to be in a play-in. Or 12th place and want to get up to 10th so they can be in a play-in. And sacrifice the long term for the short term when literally they're set up for the long term. Because it's a rebuild. Like, Scoot's going to be much, much better when he's 25 years old than he is right now. If not, then we have a bigger problem on our hands. Same thing with Shaden Sharp. So, that's who we're building around, right? It's time to build around them then. If they were stars in their prime, it'd be different. So, anyway, anything else you want to get to?
We have to do a Tankathon.
Oh, yeah, Tankathon.
For Spencer.
Tankathon for Spencer. This is unofficial because it's not on a post-game show. So this is not the first one of the season. Because the first one last year, we got number 1 from the 11th spot. So we'll see if we can recreate that. Let me make sure I actually have a screen capture. I need to go through my whole stream setup. No, let's get rid of that. Okay. Any questions from chat in the meantime? Life advice, Blazers advice, channel questions. Oh, by the way, if you have questions, please give me some questions on the community tab of the main channel. Because I want to do a mailbag video. I know a lot of people don't see that community tab. I just need some questions to be able to make a mailbag video. I plan on dropping one of those in the next couple of days. So if you can go and ask a question on the main channel, there's a link in the description. You go there and you click on community, and you can ask a question. You'll be included in a video. All right. Oh, wait, I already had a Tankathon set up. What am I doing? I'm all over the place. Per usual. Let's see, does this look good? Yes, it does. All right. Tankathon time. Let's do this thing. Simulate the lottery and scroll up from the bottom as we normally do. They got Dallas as a lottery team. That pick goes to New York because they kept their pick this year by being in the top 10. They were 10th, and then they got Derek Lively. I think that's a really good fit for him. 13, Minnesota. 12, New Orleans. They have as a lottery team as well. Indiana at 11. That's a little low for them, or high. But they did get Bruce Brown. They might be solid. 10th, Brooklyn. Their pick goes to Houston this year. 9, Utah. 8 is San Antonio via the Toronto Raptors. I have no idea who moved up. At 7 is Charlotte. At 6 is your Portland Trailblazers, falling 3 spots.
Woo! Alex Sarr, here we come. So,
watch him be a top 5 prospect at that point.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going top 5. I think he's going top 5. 5 is OKC via Houston. 4 is Orlando. OKC they have as a playoff team, by the way.
They got, that's top 4 protected, so they only got it because it fell 3 spots to 5.
So San Antonio gets 2, and then Washington gets the number 1 pick. So we move down 3 spots. Luckily, it's unofficial. That would suck to like lose all year, be terrible, tank. Like, I don't like tanking, even if it is the right choice. I don't like it. At least we moved up this year. It would suck to be like a 22-win team. There's a couple teams worse than us that have like 20, 21 wins just because we win some game at the end of the year, and then instead of getting first or second pick, we move down from 3 to 6. If we tank, we better be the worst team in the league, so we don't have to we don't have to worry about anything until the 5th pick comes up.
Yep.
Wasn't Detroit the worst team?
Well, Detroit was worst, the worst team, and they fell.
They fell 4 spots.
Yep.
Yeah. So the most spots you can fall is 4. So if you're the second worst team, the worst you can get is 6th. If you're first, the worst you can get is 5th. So, if we end up tanking the majority of the year, I want it to be the worst team so that we'll do another watch party for the lottery, and we wouldn't have to worry until 5. We wouldn't be sitting there like on our seats. But then again, if a bunch of teams move up, then that's bad, I guess. Man, if we could have just gotten Wemby, how different would things be right now?
Yeah, hype PBL summer.
I'm just thinking back to that lottery stream, and people were like, "Why are you upset? You moved up to 3," and it was like, we'd still have Dame. We'd be probably a playoff team next year with a super bright future. We'd have Wemby, of course. Main channel would have hit 10K by now. People wouldn't be questioning our freaking fandom. People wouldn't be calling... Well, maybe they would be calling us a sellout. Who knows? People find ways. But instead, it's pain. It's painful. That's why I was sad, even though we moved up to 3. Because the comments on that draft lottery reaction were like, what? Why do you look sad? Why aren't you happy? It's like, I wanted one, man. It was Wemby or bust for me. I wasn't high on Brandon Miller. I think Charlotte's going to regret that pick. I think Amen and Scoot are going to be better than him.
Well, I mean, most people think Scoot is.
Yeah, well, I had to throw in a bold one in there.
That's not bold. A lot of people had Amen higher than him.
No, we did a chat poll on lottery day because remember we had a debate on Brandon Miller versus men, and I asked chat, and 80% of them agreed with you and said Miller.
Okay, who you wanted the Blazers to draft is different than who's going to be the best player, though.
I forgot how I asked it. It was pretty bold. It was not commonly shared. We'll see. If we had drafted Leonard Miller and had the 2 G League Ignite studs on the same team at the next level, yeah, I'd feel a little bit better right now if we had Leonard Miller. I said on draft night when we drafted Chris Murray, like, if we end up trading Dame and going into a rebuild, this pick makes no sense. I'm still not happy about the Chris Murray pick. Maybe he'll make me happy about it. I don't know. I'm still not happy. He's just an NBA-ready guy at 23 who doesn't have much upside. That's the other thing with going into this rebuild mode. High upside guys are good. Anyway. I think that's a wrap for the stream. Thank you to everybody who donated. Appreciate you all. We'll be back on Thursday with another live stream.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate you.
Let me answer Dionysus's question. I'm doing hypnotherapy. Yeah, I'm afraid to fly. I got a fear of flying. Yeah, I'm doing hypnotherapy for that. So I'll let you know how it goes. It's not cheap though. So, and it's remote, which I have some questions about. So, yeah, I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted. Because I'll probably have to fly somewhere in the next month. So, I'm already kind of stressing about that possibility. Anyway, that's a wrap for the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be live again on Thursday. Make sure to go ask your mailbag questions on the community tab. I will post a link to the community tab in the chat as we sign off here. Thank you to everybody who hit the like button. It's the easiest way you can show some support. Stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. First day of October, we're going to drop channel content plans. Maybe it'll be a whole trailer. I don't know. But we're going to have some more news on things and a rebrand for this channel, all sorts of stuff. So I am looking forward to it. Are we lagging on the outro?
Yep.
All right. Well.
So he's popping in that. So she's.
They couldn't wait. They couldn't wait like 10 more seconds for my sign off. Anyway, I'll just type it. Peace out. Oh, are we back? Yeah, it literally couldn't wait 10 seconds before we lagged.
On my way out, I remember Daniel and some other people asked this question. We've talked about it before. Who's going to be the starting small forward? If they're smart, it'll be Sharp, and they'll just give him as many minutes as possible. If they're dumb, it'll be Thibault, and we'll try to win as many games as possible.
Yep. I am scared about that. I don't want to be angry going into the season in game 1.
I think it'll be Thibault.
Yeah, I have a feeling it'll be Thibault too.
Yeah.
I can't wait for Thibault to be playing 36 minutes a game and Sharp 20 in a rebuilding year.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll discuss that quandary as we get closer to the season. I'll do a chat. Don't have time for chat poll right now, but I'm curious as to what your guys' thoughts are regarding the starting small forward spot, because that's going to be an area of debate. Anyway, that's a wrap for the stream. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to go subscribe to the main channel, link in the description. Check out Eric's podcast that he did, the Miami Heat podcast. It's with 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm forgetting their name, but go check it out. Everything is linked in the description. Discord as well, Twitters, all that good stuff. With that being said, we're out of here. Catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.